Hello everybody, Sunday Adelaja here. I'm back to you with this teaching on African people. Are black African people cursed? Are blacks cursed? Are Africans cursed? Well, that's what we're examining. And today I'm going to be talking on the topic of how Africans brought civilization to the whole world. How Africans brought civilization to the whole world. So African roots of the Mongoloid race. African roots of the Mongoloid race. If you look in the internet, go and search for it, you will discover that the Chinese and the Mongolians and the Asian people, they have African roots. And Africans are the people that are the progenitors progenitors of the Mongoloid race, of the Asian race, just like every other race as well. So that's what we're going to be examining today. So go and share the message and go and call on your friends and let us go. So Professor Julian Jackson, this is not a black person, so you don't say it's a revisionism. It's not a revisionism. It's not an attempt to reverse history. It's not an attempt by black people to rewrite history. No, this is a white person writing. This is a European, and it is very clear for people who are scientists and who have been in science and who know history and who know anthropology and who understand archaeology. You know, it's not a big deal. It's not something to prove to them again that everybody, every race, come from black race. And the first earliest civilization is the civilization of the Ethiopians or the Kushites or the black people. So you know we have discussed it earlier on that all civilization started in Africa and in the Kushite territory or civilization, and people migrated to other parts of the world. And another factor in this is that there is no there is no way, there is no other color that could give birth to every color or every race on the earth apart from black. So only black race can give birth to all other races. A white race or a brown race can never give birth to black races. So black will never come from white, but white can come from black, and all other colors can come from black. This is science, and this is elementary for scientists people and the artists and people who draw. They will also tell you the same thing. So it is very logical that every one of us come, and every human race and every nationality come from the black race. And if you look at the word for Adam, you know, to a large extent, Adam means man, but the full word for it, Adamic, means black. Black because it means earth, the black earth, from where people were made, from where man was made. Because even the Bible records it that God formed the man from the soil of the ground, the black soil. So that is also a factor in determining that everything. And you know, I've also proved to you that that civilization and the first people lived in Africa, and it was later from there that it spread to all other places of the earth. And I also told you that at that point, initially, that all continents were together. All continents were one continent. All continents were together, so it was one monolith land, earth before. And there was a stage where there was a splitting and a division of the earth, of the planet Earth. And when that happened actually after the flood. And science, as I could explain it, that it is because of the residue of water, because the flood happened because of the excessive water coming not from the heavens, not from the sky, but from under the earth. So it is that water that after that residue of the water, you know, that the earth couldn't stand it. So the earth started splitting, and that is how we have continents. And but at this time, when the earth had splitted, there were already black people all over that piece of earth. And when the earth split, it took away, separated, and there were already black people there. So that's why they could find black people in America, that there were black people there before before anybody else, before the Europeans came there. And there were black people in Asia, and there were black people in Australia, there were black people in Europe. And there are archaeological discoveries now that are confirming all that. That everywhere, there are black people everywhere. Black people are the origin, the cradle of civilization, and they give birth to all other races. So today I'm going to be talking about that, the root, the African root for the Asian people. But I'm going to talk about many other Asian nationalities. And if you go to the internet, you will see that right now people have discovered that there are black Chinese, Japanese, and that the archaeological proofs to that. But today we are going to be talking about the Mongoloid race, that is talking about Mongolia, China, Russia, part of Russia, part of Asia, Southeast Asia, and all those kind of colored, not people who are not white, who are not totally white, but colored people, like brown people. So, African roots of the Mongoloid race. So this professor, Julian Jackson, connected the most ancient civilizations of Africa. Okay, so what is that ancient civilization? The most ancient civilization of the world, not just of Africa, it's of the world, but in Africa. So where was that civilization? They call it Ethiopia, or they used to call it Nubia, or Ethiopia, or Kushite. But when they talk about Ethiopia, we all know Ethiopia, that there is a country called Ethiopia today. But we are talking about Ethiopia that was in the ancient Ethiopia. The ancient Ethiopia consisted of countries as large as Libya, Egypt. You saw Egypt was part of Africa, Black Africa. Egypt was part of Ethiopia, was part of Black African civilization. Libya, Egypt, all that territory, all of Africa, Sudan, Khartoum, that is Sudan, and Southern Sudan, Western Asia, including the present day Syria, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, India, and Russia. So all that civilization, the Ethiopian civilization, covered all those places because it was all a monolith land. You know, it was a monolith land, and including Europe, like Greece, Italy, Crete. So all these were part of the African civilization, with a nation known in history as Ethiopians, you see, or Kushites. So history knows this. The only problem is that when they teach you in school, they don't include this in there. They don't tell you about your history. And there is an explanation for that, because people who conquer you, who rule over you, they want to make you inferior to themselves. And they know that if they begin to tell you about your exploits and about your greatness, you begin to wonder, so why are you doing, what are you doing here? Why are you over us? And also because they was trading in black people, and they also needed to come up with some doctrines that white people are superior and black people are inferior. So, but in history, if you really are objective student of history, just like I did, and through my book, How Africans Brought Civilization to Europe, I was able to prove that. I was able to do my own research and discover all these things. But historians like this man, like Professor Jackson, Julian Jackson, will not doubt that. He knows that, because if you study the real documents, you will see that, you know, the black people rule the world. The black people rule the world. I mean, this is half of the world right here. And it was under the civilization and the dominance of Ethiopians or Kushites. Kushite means blacks. And Ethiopia also means burnt face, black, dark face. Namely, Ethiopian social and political structures became the basis for myths and stories of the majority of ancient world civilizations. Like ancient Egypt, all the stories that is coming from ancient Egypt is all about the story of black people. The same with Sumerians, Those were black people also. Solstice, west of Transcaucasus, that is, Caucasus. Crete, that's closer to Europe, India, and so on. So all these places, in their ancient history, if you study their ancient history, you will discover that they are always referring and coming back to black people and black race with big lips and white nose and dark skin, who are ruling over them, and that's who they were. Wherever megalithic architecture and gigantic ruins of ancient cities could be found, you see, whenever they do architectural unearthing, and whenever they discover a gigantic building or palace or ruins in any of those places, it always leads back to black people. They always find black people there. So whenever megalithic architecture or gigantic ruins of ancient cities could be found, at all times big statues and other artifacts of people with Negroid appearance were found there. They always discover that these were black. It always leads to, whenever they find a sculpture or the drawing or the painting, it always show black people. So black people was the origin of all these nations. As anthropologist Sheikh Anta Diop states, a man born in Africa has to be dark-skinned due to the considerable strength of ultraviolet emission in the equatorial belt. So there is, if you are in Africa, there is a belt, equatorial belt, that is all around of Africa. So if you are born there, there is an emission of air and of wind and air that is coming, and of sun that is coming on the earth, on the surface of the earth. So there is no way your pigmentation will not be black just because you live there, especially if you are born there and you are originally not white. Because white cannot become black, but black can become white. Black cannot come out of white, but from black, everything comes out, white and all of that. When moving to more tolerant areas, people were gradually losing pigmentation as a result of selection and adaptation. After leaving the Great Lakes region of Africa, Africans used different roads and of different complexities to transport themselves, even when the whole earth was still one. So they traveled all over the earth. These routes included the Nile Valley area, the Isthmus of Suez, Palestine, and from there they stretched out to Far East Asia, Oceania, and Europe. Another migration path led from Somalia, the Horn of Africa, to the east along the shores of southern Asia. I also spoke the other day about the fact that the Bible records this historically when the earth was separated, when it became continent. When it was talking about the story of the flood with Noah and the flood, then it was talking about what happened after that, and talking about that, it talked about Peleg, and gives a short explanation that it was in the times and in the days of Peleg that the earth broke and separated into different parts. So that's how we know that all these people, it was easier for them to migrate to all the corners of the earth because it was a monolith. Settlement of people from Africa and the change of their skin color were also clarified in the previous teaching. Thus, we have an idea where people came from to different parts of the world, Asia in particular, from Africa. If you look at that picture, that photograph, you will see that it is easily explainable that if you join all these other continents, I mean all these other continents to Africa, you could see how they break out and how they were separated, especially with Africa and Europe. You could see that it was all monolith before. You know, you could see there is a gap that took place, and that's why the water separated the land, the mainland. But then if you bring the America or Australia land also, it will fit right in. They will fit right into all those. You see where Nigeria is, you know, you could see that something separated from there. And also where Madagascar is, you could see that easily that something separated from there as well. So that is where the separation. But if you bring them, even the way they are drawn, the shape they have right now, you will see that the shape will easily fit in. So we have an idea where people came from to different parts of the world. Asia in particular, they are all from Africa. We also examine the reasons of different skin pigmentation of people in different parts of the world. The so-called Mongoloid race was defined as yellow skinned according to classification of the French anthropologist Topinard. As a working hypothesis, C.A. Diop supposed that a so-called yellow-skinned race is probably a result of extensive blending of white and black people at a very early stage of human history. It states that the content of melanin, that is what is responsible for our skin formation, our color of skin formation, in yellow-skinned people, and also such physical characteristics as prognatism, anticipates protruding jaws when lower jaw has no mental protuberance. Lips and nose correspond to those that can be seen in mixed alliances or mixed races. So what he's trying to say is that it is the mixture of black people with other white-skinned people that gave birth to colored people. That is just his hypothesis. Naturally, over the centuries, these differences underwent even more change, taking into consideration also 1,000 years of forced adaptations to factors of environment, mainly wind currents. Yeah, that's the pigmentation that I said comes out because of the emission that comes out of the equator and the wind and the sun that changes and influencing the pigmentation of people's skin. This concerns the race as such. It influences the race. The next time we will look at the role of Africans in development of different Asian civilization. Yeah, I think I'm going, maybe tomorrow, I will try to do that tomorrow and go and look into the other Asian civilization and how Africans came there and brought their influence there and their and started and laid the foundation for those civilizations. So let's go and share this message. Let's go share the message, because after this I'm going to show a video that I believe will also help us to get an understanding of what we're saying better. So go share the message. If you want to join my mentorship program, go to sundayadelajablog.com/mentorship. It's the same thing. If you want to buy my books, you could go to sundayadelajablog.com/books. If you want to, you can buy them on Amazon as well, or read them for free on Kindle Unlimited. If you want to come to Nigeria with us, it's also sundayadelajablog.com/Nigeria. So if you want to come to History Makers Training, it is also sundayadelajablog.com/HMT, History Makers Training. So for all those things, you can go to History Makers Training. I mean, you can go to sundayadelajablog.com for HMT, History Makers Training, just /HMT, books /books, sundayadelajablog.com/books. If it is if it is coming to Nigeria with us, it's also sundayadelajablog.com/Nigeria. If it is mentorship, it is also sundayadelajablog.com/mentorship. So we'll go now to have a look at the video for today that will bring a better understanding for us. Thank you so much. Peace.
First off, I would like to start off, Dr. Dawkins. I'm noticing that wonderful shirt you have on right now. It says that we are all Africans. Now, now that's easy for you to say. You were born in Kenya. So, for those of us not born in Kenya, could you please explain why we are all Africans?
I'm a fairly recently retired professor, and I'm professorial enough to draw on this convenient whiteboard here. That is 6 million years ago, and that is the common ancestor of chimpanzees and bonobos and humans. That is about 7 million years ago, and that is the common ancestor of all those and gorillas. That's about 12 million years ago, and that's the common ancestor of all those and orangutans. Orangutans, as you know, are Asian apes. Gorillas, humans, bonobos, and chimpanzees are African apes. Darwin conjectured, long before there were any available fossils, that the right place to look for human fossils was Africa, and he worked that out by pointing out that humans most resemble the other African apes, namely chimpanzees, well, they didn't call them bonobos in those days, and gorillas. The reason that we know approximately the date of the common ancestor is molecular evidence comparing the genes, comparing the proteins of these various animals. It's possible to calibrate the date at which a common ancestor happened, and we can date the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees and bonobos at about 6 million years ago. Unfortunately, there are no fossils down this line here, possibly because they're forest-dwelling animals. Nowadays, unlike in Darwin's time, there are quite a lot of fossils down this line here, and they're all in Africa. We've got the genus Australopithecus, sort of about halfway down, Ardipithecus there, and Homo habilis there, Homo erectus about there, and then Homo sapiens, archaic Homo sapiens there, and then modern Homo sapiens there. Lots and lots of little branches, quite well documented in the fossil record here, all extinct except the last one, Homo sapiens. You may have heard the phrase out of Africa. There were two out of Africas. Homo erectus, about a little over 1.5 million years ago, left Africa and colonized Asia and Europe, and arguably Indonesia as well. No, not arguably, definitely Indonesia. That's the first out of Africa. The second out of Africa is very recent, probably less than 100,000 years ago. If you look molecularly, if you look at the molecules of modern human races, they are astonishingly uniform, and such variation as there is mostly within Africa. So that suggests that the deepest divides of cousinship in our species are within Africa. The whole of the rest of the world is a very, very recent branch off the human species. If you look at the amount of variation in the human species genetically, it's extremely low We are a very, very uniform species compared to other species, even chimpanzees. It's been said that if you take two chimpanzees from the same forest in Africa, they're likely to be more different from each other genetically than any two humans in the world. It's a bit surprising when you consider that we, to our eyes, at least look more different. But the genetics is very clear that we are an astonishingly uniform species. We are all one species, one very uniform species, and we originate very recently in Africa. We are all Africans.
Thank you.
And at some point in the past, a subgroup of Africans left the African continent to go out and populate the rest of the world.
Not too many weeks after our paper came out, a paper with Harvarti and Chris was on this paper as well, reporting a fossil from Iwo Iliru that was dating to about 13,000 years in Nigeria. So a region of Africa that has been understudied, where fossils hadn't really previously been found, but I guess this had been found a number of years ago and redated, and it has some archaic features. So here's an example of a fossil that can back us up a bit in terms of the idea that there may be populations living as recently as 13,000 years ago in Central Africa that could carry some of this archaic material. So it's very provocative in that sense.
We are all Africans.
Black folk don't take pride in where they from. They don't take pride in their heritage. Because as I did on my other video, I told you we're easily deceived. We're weak-minded people. We just allow whoever to throw whatever they want to throw at us, and we just believe it. That's how gullible we are. That's how gullible we are. That's how gullible we are.